Welcome. My name is Amy. I'll be your library host this evening. Tonight we have Catherine Miller with us. She is the program coordinator for Triple P, Positive Parenting Program, which is a multi-level system of family intervention designed to reduce behavioral and emotional problems, which is part of the Boone County Early Childhood Coalition. Tonight's workshop will focus on how to help younger children achieve emotional resilience by recognizing, understanding, and accepting their feelings so they can cope with stressful and upsetting situations. And then I will hand it over to Catherine. All right.
Well, welcome everyone for coming. Today we are going to talk about raising resilient children, and we are going to focus on the younger age group this time around. One of the things that I wanted to point out in the slides that we'll go over is that you'll see things that may look like it's spelled different. And that's because Triple P is actually founded in the UK, and it comes from Queensland. So they use things like color, so they use some U, so color would be COLOUR, and they do you'll see some S's and Z's swapped out, like recognizing, we would use a Z and they use an S. So I don't want you to think our slides have misspellings in them. They actually are just how they spell things in the UK. So again, welcome. My name is Catherine Miller. I am the Triple P coordinator, and we work with families on a community level. So this is the community level where we just go through some general topics and talk about our children and raising children in a way that's positive. And then we also offer one-on-one sessions. So in a one-on-one session, you'd make an appointment with me or one of our community providers we could get you set up with. And we talk about behaviors such as hitting, kicking, biting, bedtime routines, tantrums, setting routines, and just naming a few things. We work one-on-one to resolve those issues that's happening. Usually the visits are between about 4 weeks. So we have about 4 sessions. The first session you come, we talk about what the problem is and we work a plan. I empower you to go work that plan with your child, because if your child works with me, sometimes that child changes for me, but when you take back over, the behaviors might come back. So you're the one doing the implementation and I'm the one supporting you through that. So then we come back the second week and we kind of talked about what went well, what maybe didn't go so well, what we can work on, and we work through that plan and do a little altering, and then you go back out and try it again. And so that's kind of what we do until we find something that works. And once we find something that works, I may check in with you, and we may space out working together for a couple of weeks to make sure what we decided on is going to work, and then we'll kind of phase out together. And then, of course, if you ever need to come back, you're welcome to. One of the great things about our program of Triple P is that if you are in Boone County, it's free for you. So this is funded by the Boone County Children's Services Board. And this is a 1-cent mental health tax that voters approved in Boone County several years ago. And we are one of the programs that they are funding. We've worked with so many parents in the community. Just to give you an example, we had about 300 visits between January and June of this year. So we have people coming in the door reaching out for services. One of the things that I want parents to realize most is all parents need help. It doesn't matter your income, your race, or anything about you, like all parents need help. Parenting is hard. Everybody's heard the saying, it doesn't come with a manual, and it's correct. I have very educated parents that come through the doors who have read so many resources. The thing about reading a resource is it doesn't have a, if this doesn't work, then what page, right? It's not like the choose your own adventures where you can go back and start again and choose another path down to try. In a book, books are start to finish, and it is what it is. So the good thing about working with me is you do get to come back and say, hey, this didn't work. What else can we do? So I would love for you to do a one-on-one with me if you need to. Or the other thing we do is we do community work for organizations or clubs or groups. So if you have a women's group, or you just want to get a bunch of friends together, if you have a church group, 4-H group, whatever the case of parents groups that you have, I'll come present for your groups. I can even come talk about just general information if you have an information group that you think, oh, this would be great for them to learn. So I presented at some Rotary clubs and different clubs around Columbia that just wanted information to send out to their members. So, that's maybe a 15 minute talk. So we can do that as well. I'll have Amy put my email address in the chat, and you can feel free to reach out to me if any of those things sound like something you would like. So with that, we'll get started. All right, so raising resilient children. And this again is from the Triple P seminars, which stands for Positive Parenting Program. So the first thing, we'll have a quick overview. So we'll talk about what emotional resilience is in children, the building blocks for success, and then we'll talk about any take-home messages, and then we'll answer any questions if you guys have any. So emotional resilience. So let's kind of define that. Emotional resilience is the ability to recognize, understand, and accept feelings. We want kids to be able to express feelings in an appropriate way, to face and resolve difficult situations, and cope with stressful or upsetting situations. And these abilities are actually related to a child's development. So children need to learn to cope with everyday feelings in difficult situations. Some children experience very stressful life events, and their ability to cope with feelings is all still related to their social skills and relationships, their tolerance and compassion, coping with life experience, and the prevention of emotional problems. So one of the things that's really kind of important about Triple P is, we talk to teachers in the area. And one of the things that they expressed was looking at kindergarten readiness. And teachers said, hey, we can teach, right? We can teach numbers, we can teach reading, we can teach kids to write their names, but we can't teach them social emotional regulation. We'd really like kids to come in with those skills. So this is one of the things that developed from Triple P came about from that as well, is because Triple P really aims to help parents help their children to gain those social emotional skills that they're needing. When we talk about early childhood, we really talk about kindergarten readiness, right? Is your child socially and emotionally ready for kindergarten? And if for us to be able to say yes, they need to have those social skills and relationships that we mentioned. They need to learn tolerance and compassion. We see that, tolerance of kids who may have behavior problems in the room, tolerance of kids who may not have learned how to not take things from people, or kids who are still yelling at their friends or hurting their friends. Compassion, so learning and seeing our friends get hurt and we feel for them. We don't want them to be hurt. We're sad that they got hurt. Learning that we're sad that things don't go our way or we don't get the things that we want. Coping with life experiences. So right now, I'd say the last year and a half, right, we've been teaching kids to cope with a pandemic. We've been teaching kids how to do online school, going back into school, dealing with mask and no mask, and all the things that's come along with the pandemic. And then the prevention of emotional problems. So when we talk about prevention, we really talk about helping parents to understand what emotional problems are, and then how to be able to recognize them, and then be able to reach out for help and get help with them, or referrals to places that can help with those emotional problems. So what do emotionally resilient children look like? So they're caring and socially skilled. They're empathetic and sensitive. They're able to manage their feelings. They're able to cope with stress or unpleasant experiences, and they're less likely to resort in unhelpful ways of coping. So let's kind of break those down. So they're caring and socially skilled. So caring, most people understand what caring is, but they're concerned about their friends. They want to help. We know little kids are always wanting to be helpers, right? They really care about things that are going on around them. Socially skilled is being able to understand the needs of someone else. So an example is your friend gets hurt on the playground, you see that they're bleeding, and the kid may go to the teacher and say their friend fell down and they need a Band-Aid, right? They know that when you get hurt and you bleed, you get a Band-Aid. So some of that is being able to recognize what might be needed in a situation. Children are empathetic and sensitive, so they try to put themselves in someone else's shoes. They understand that their friends are sad when, their crayon broke and now they don't have one to use, or they didn't get the drawing picture they wanted. They wanted a wolf, but they were given a dog and you can't trade. And so they're really, really sad because wolves are their favorite. And they really wish they had got a wolf instead of a dog. And so now they're really sad about it. And you understand. And maybe some kids like, hey, I don't care if I have a wolf or a dog and I have a wolf and I'll trade you, right? So they're sensitive to the other person's needs. And they're like, hey, either one is fine by me. So let's trade. And so now that other kid is really, really happy. And your kid or the other kid that traded is still happy because they didn't really, they weren't so involved or invested in which picture they colored. So they're able to manage their feelings. So in the above situation, we gave away, like that person didn't have a preference of the picture. So they were able to say, hey, I understand you're really sad and I'll trade you. But if someone hurts them and their instant thought, like many people, is to hit someone back, right? But they're able to say, you know, hitting is wrong. Just, I don't want to hurt the other person back. So I'm going to manage my feelings and I'm not going to hit. So that's, you know, one way of being able to manage themselves. Let's say they were on the playground and they fell off and the swing and they hit the ground and maybe like hit their face on the mat and they look up and everyone's laughing, right? And so they're feeling embarrassed and they want to cry. So maybe they hold on to that cry until they get into the building because they don't want to see other people see them cry. But that took managing those feelings that wanted to explode at the time. And then being able to cope with stress or unpleasant experiences. So that's just working through stressful situations kids may be put in. And then they're less likely to resort in unhelpful ways of coping. So an unhelpful way of coping would be lashing out at others, yelling at their friends when a situation happens. The friend's trying to ask a question and they're like, I don't want your help, go away. Those are unhelpful ways of coping with the situation. So we're going to talk about some building blocks. Sorry, my allergies are horrible. My eyes are watering. Recognizing and accepting feelings, expressing feelings appropriately, building a positive outlook, and then developing some coping skills, dealing with negative feelings, and dealing with stressful life events. So those are the kind of the building blocks that we'll build on. So the first one, recognizing and accepting feelings. So, you know, children gradually, they learn how to recognize and understand their emotions and those of others. They become aware of different feelings. They learn the words to describe their feelings, and then they develop more complex feelings. And these changes are related to their language, thinking, and experiences. So if we talk about that infant stage, right, we're teaching them how our faces look, and we're giving words that sound, right? Hi, and we talk in their face, and we're happy, and we smile, and we're giving them feelings of happiness and comfort, right? Maybe when they cry, we give a voice. It's like, oh, I'm here for you. I know you're sad. You need your diaper change. But babies start to hear those different tone changes in our voice. Then they start to put faces with that. So understanding what your face looks like and your voice sounds like. And toddlers start, you know, as they age, they start to put things together. That's why by the time kids, you know, get around that 5-ish, 6-ish, you can give them a mom look, and they know that look, like stop, right? Stop what you're doing. You know you're not supposed to do that. You can give it across the room, nonverbals with it, and the kid knows because you have trained them to know to stop whatever they're doing, or they know that look means they might be in trouble. But that's because they've been trained and you've been showing them that look, and then they now know it. So kids become aware of different feelings. We start saying things like, if they hit, you're saying, oh, ow, we don't hit. You know, we don't hurt each other. That really hurt mommy or daddy, right? We're talking about things hurting us. We're trying to connect feelings of things kids do with how it makes you feel, but we're talking to that. We describe this feeling. So, you know, little kids will often, if there's a pet, they'll try to pet them really hard, or they may hit the cat or dog or pull their tail. And so we're talking to them about, oh, you know, that's the cat's leg. The cat doesn't like her leg pulled like that. That might hurt her. So we don't pull her leg like that. So, you know, we're helping the child to understand why they don't do the things they're doing. And then as they get older, they get more complex feelings. So I often tell parents, we give feelings like hurt, angry, sad, mad, but we don't give kids words like embarrassed, disappointed, some of those more complex feelings. So as kids age, we need to give them some more feelings, because a kid who falls off a swing and hits their face, yes, that hurts, but in the moment, they may be more embarrassed than hurt. And so if they don't know what that other word is, they may say, they may misunderstand the emotions that they're feeling inside and think, oh, I'm mad that, or I'm hurt, but hurt feels like something else. And then they're confused with the feeling. So we try to give them other words to use in a situation if something else fits that. All right. So what can parents do? So understanding that ups and downs are normal, helping kids to talk about their feelings. Sometimes we can say, let's say a child lost a pet. You can say, I understand how sad you might be for losing your pet. I lost a pet once too, right? So helping them to say you understand how they feel and helping them to open up about their feelings. Being emotionally expressive. So, talking about your day, how you felt. We're not overly sharing. We're sharing feelings appropriately, but we're showing that we have feelings too in a day. And so I remember, I have twins. I remember saying at some point, because my twins talked nonstop, mommy's ears were tired, right? I was just tired of listening to them and I needed to break. And so they knew what ears and they knew what tired meant. But if I said, oh, I just don't want to hear all that, they might not have got that. But I was able to say, mommy's ears are tired and they need a rest. And so they would go find something to do for a little bit and they'd be back with more conversation. But they knew what, ears were and that tired and rest. They knew some of those words. So that's also helping them to recognize and name emotions. And then encourage your child to be emotionally expressive. So you want to know how they're feeling. You want to know what's going on with them, but we teach them to say and talk to you appropriately. It's not okay to just yell and scream at you when they're upset. You understand they're upset, but they still have to talk respectfully. All right, expressing feelings appropriately. So what emotional expression is okay? So we talk about words, we talk about expressions, and then we talk about actions. And we talk about when to express those. So to whom, how often, how much. And then what emotional expression is not okay. And then sometimes we have to mix in family and cultural expectations. So what does that kind of mean? Well, as parents, when we're trying to get our kids to emotionally talk about things, we don't want to talk too much about our own feelings. You ever know the person whose kid knows everything about their life and they're 6 and they can tell everything that happened in their day because their parent talks and overly shares too much? So that's an example of that. Dwelling on upsetting events. So not being able to push forward and move on for something that was upsetting. Showing too much interest and feeling. So constantly your child looks sad and they tell you you're sad, and then you may ask them 4 to 6 times in that, how much are you really still sad? Why are you still sad? Do you think you're going to stay sad long? So that would, being overly invested in the feeling versus saying it's okay to be sad. When you're done feeling sad, maybe we can talk about it. Come talk to me. Being overly sympathetic or encouraging avoidance. Overreacting to minor upsets, and then not giving attention to other behaviors. So that's definitely a trap for parents. If we only focus on the negative, then our kids learn that they can get attention from us only when they do a negative thing. So making sure that we're also giving attention to their positive behaviors. Talking about our feelings. So ask your child how they feel. How was their day? What's going on with them? Making sure we're listening. So many times parents are like this, how was your day? And your child's talking while you're scrolling, you're paying no attention. You're like, yeah. Oh, I'm sure that did make you sad, right? We want people's undivided attention too. We don't want them talking into a phone or paying attention to a phone and not really paying any attention to us. Making sure that we avoid telling children how they should feel. Because sometimes maybe they don't feel like that. That was kind of like that example between maybe they felt more embarrassed than hurt when they fell off the swing, and you say, oh, that must have really hurt you. You're feeling really hurt, huh? Well, actually, I'm really embarrassed because everyone's looking at me and I fell off the swing and that's embarrassing and that's how I'm really feeling. But you said I'm hurt. So, okay, yeah, I'm hurt. So, maybe that's not how they felt. So encouraging them to tell you how they feel. And then if they don't know, you can kind of help suggest it and say, well, maybe you might feel like this. Maybe you feel embarrassed. And embarrassed is, and you explain the emotion and give them a chance to say, well, oh yeah, I do feel like that. Or no, that's not how I'm feeling. You can read stories and talk about the character's feelings. The library has many great books on feelings. And so you can check out some books and really help your kids understand other feelings than the common ones, and then how to recognize those feelings in not only themselves, but in others as well. So encouraging our children. So making sure we're giving our children positive attention for expressing feelings in an appropriate way. So positive feelings or negative feelings. It's okay to have both, but we're giving our children positive attention for expressing them. It's okay to be mad at a friend because they didn't want to play with you, but we talk about then, not everyone has to play with you. They get the choice between, who they want to play with and who they don't. And then you're like, but who else could you play with? You don't have to have just one friend. You can play with lots of people in the playground. Or what kind of things can you do by yourself until friends are ready to play? So really talking about those positive feelings and negative feelings, and it's okay to have both. And then congratulate your child for managing a difficult situation. If you're here that your kid really worked through something tough, tell them, I'm so proud of you for working through that. Congratulations on being able to handle yourself in that difficult situation. I can't imagine how you feel. Why don't you tell me what that was like, right? Engaging your child and helping to talk through that. So how do we deal with problems? One of the best things that we can use is use consistent discipline. And when we do that, we acknowledge their feelings. You tell your child what to stop doing. You give a brief explanation and then tell your child what to do instead, and then use backup consequences if needed. So let me give you an example of that. So kids want to play, it's a rainy day and the kids are so bored and they want something to do, but you find them jumping on the couch. And so you acknowledge, hey, I understand you're bored and you want something to do, but you can't jump on the couch, right? Couches are for sitting, they're not for jumping. So I would like you to set your bottom on the couch and sit on the couch instead of jumping. And if we can't follow those rules, then we may have to sit in timeout until you can understand the rules and follow them. So that was a way of going through all those steps and saying what we need. Oftentimes we spend so much time telling our children what not to do. Stop this, stop that, don't do this, don't do that. So another example of the couch is I worked with a parent who was really working on her kid not jumping on the couch. And she would say to him, you're not allowed to jump on the couch. And so he would crawl on the couch. And then she'd say, well, you're not supposed to jump on the couch or crawl on the couch. And he really wanted to test her. So he would roll on the couch, or he would one hop leg on the couch. He would do whatever it was to aggravate her and do something different than what she said. And so when she met with me, we talked about what are couches for? That's that number 3, give a brief explanation. Couches are for sitting. Now, yes, sometimes we do lay on the couch, but I think if we're trying to correct a behavior, we have to correct a behavior for what it's meant to be, and then we can give some leeway, right? So we would say couches are for sitting, and this is how I want you to sit. I want your feet on the ground and your bottom on the seat of the couch, because we're really moving from jumping, walking, skipping, tap dancing on the couch, right? So we're telling them what to do instead. And then we're letting them know that there's going to be a consequence if they don't do what's asked of them. And once we have changed that behavior where they're respectful and they come and treat the couch with respect, we can talk about, yes, we can snuggle on the couch and lay on the couch together. We can do other things on the couch, but what we're trying to do is change that negative behavior of jumping on the couch. And that's why we give a rule of what the couch is for. And so we can model ways of expressing our feelings. Again, we knew they were sad and disappointed that they couldn't go outside in this example because it was raining. And so we're modeling, we understand it's horrible when we can't go outside and we're disappointed, but this is things that we do instead, even when we're feeling like that. All right, our third building block, building a positive outlook. So in order to have a positive outlook, you have to have optimistic thinking. So talking about the positive, even in a negative situation, how does it look? How can we come out on the other side? What kind of things can we do to turn it around? Curiosity and exploration. So talking about a situation, what if we did this? Kind of like I talked about the playground. So your kid comes home and says, I have no friends, nobody likes me, nobody wants to play with me. And so the optimistic thinking is, well, I hope kids would really like to play with you. And I hope you can find some friends to play with. And so curiosity and exploration of the situation would look like, so tell me why you don't think your friends want to play with you. What does recess look like? What happens when you come out? What are your other friends doing? You know, and then they may tell you something. Well, some people are playing Foursquare, some people are swinging, some people play tag, but I never get invited to anything. And so then you say, well, do you ask if you can play with people? And your child might say, no, I just wait to be invited. And you say, well, why might you not ask your friends to play if you can play with them? And so they may be like, I'm nervous or I'm scared. And so then you might role play with them. So how can we ask friends if we want to play? And you can say, I'll be you and you be your friends. And so then you say, hey guys, may I play with you? And then back your child would say, yeah, sure, come join us, but you got to be it, right? Because, you know, that's how that works. So you're helping them to understand the situation. You're exploring maybe why they think the situation is, and then you're helping them to work through it. And then we get contentment, right? So like now they're like, oh, I understand how to ask to play with people, and that makes me happy. And so now I can ask friends to play, and I know that I don't have to be always invited to play. I can ask to play with people. And if people say no, I can move on and ask another friend. Or you help them to think about what other kind of things on the playground can you do by yourself until people are ready to play. You know, maybe you're talking about you can't always join if it's a certain game that they're playing. You can't always join until, you know, everyone has had a turn, and then maybe you get to hop in at the end of that time and play. So you're talking about turns and sharing and when's a good time to jump in on a game, but you're just helping them understand. Model being optimistic, encourage goals, encourage initiative and creativity. We want to encourage activities where your child will have experiences of success. Show your child has control over events and point out what your child does well, and talk about the good side of things. So model being optimistic. So, you know, trying to be positive in most of the things. If you're Debbie Downer, often your children will pick up on that, and then they themselves are always negative as well. Encourage your kids to have goals. So what kind of things would you like to do? A lot of times we ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? That's a goal. Maybe they start talking about, I want to join swim team, right? That's their goal. And so you may say, okay, but what does that look like? Let's talk about that. You know, the commitment time, if they're going to have to practice, you know, do you have all the things that they can do for that? So that's an option of like talking about the initiative and the creativity. Can they do what the swim team requires? And so we're really going through that. And then encourage activities where your child will experience success. So if they try all new things all the time, that's really hard, and they don't succeed, they may be negative and be like, well, I don't want to try anything new. So let's say they want to try soccer and they've never played it, but you see that at home, they can kick a ball really good. They can kick the ball and run. And you say, well, yeah, I think soccer would be great to try. And then you see your kid gets out there and they're doing it. And so they've had that success. Well, now the next time they want to try something else and they may not be as successful. And you say, oh, but you know, you tried and you tried very hard. But remember when you weren't as good at soccer as you thought, and you got in there and you tried it and then you were successful? So that's an example of when kids experience success. Show your child has control over other events. So those are times when they learn how to, so let's say the soccer game gets rained out in the middle, right? They were out playing, everybody was having a great time, and then it starts raining. And your kid doesn't have control over that event, so to speak, but they have control over their emotions and how they handle it. And they understand, like, the soccer game did get rained out, but they get to try again. Point out what your child does well, and then talk about the good side of things, how things can change and how things can get better. All right, so encouraging curiosity. So let your child try to decide what they want to do. Let them pick out things that they want to try. So exploring their talents and their interests. Being available when your child wants to show you something. So that's so hard, right? A lot of times kids want to show you something when you're what? Busy, right? You're on the phone, you're talking to another adult, you're doing something. So what we want to do, if that's the case, we want to say to our child, Amanda, I know it's really important that you want to show that to me. I'll be available in 2 minutes and I'll come back in and check on you. And then you can tell me about it. Or, Mommy, I want you to play with me. And you're like, that's fine. But right now I'm talking to Susan and this is our conversation. And when we're done with our conversation, I'll let you know, and then I can come play with you. So letting your child know that you understand that they want something from you, and then when you'll be available to them. Make sure you're asking your kids questions and make comments about it. If they want to, watch me, right? Kids always want to ask you to watch them. I want to show you something great. And then they do something like hop on one leg with their arm up and that's like their ta-da. And so you're kind of like, you wanted me to stop everything for that in your head, right? Because we don't say that out loud. But then we say, oh, well, tell me how you learned to be so strong and hop on one leg. What made you throw your hand in the air? Does that help you keep balance? So you're showing your engagement in what they're doing and making some comments about it. And then teaching your child how to find more information on something. So let's say your 5-year-old says, I want to learn how to ride a one-wheel unicycle. And so you're like, oh, okay. Well, your first thought is you're 5. You can't even ride a bicycle with 2 wheels. How are you going to ride a unicycle, right? Or maybe they do ride 2-wheel bike, but you think a unicycle, they may get hurt. So you guys research it. You learn more about it, and then you can make an informed choice whether it's a good idea for that child or not. All right, so encouraging, right? So model being appreciative and grateful. So are you using your please and thank yous and being respectful and gracious? I'll never forget when I was driving and my twins reminded me that I was being not so nice to other drivers because I would honk on them because, we're in the roundabout and you don't stop at a roundabout. So why are you not going? And I'd honk and maybe say some choice words. We'll just say maybe. And my kids were like, that's not how we talk. That's not very nice. And I was like, you're so right. Yes, let me change my behavior because I'm showing you not the most positive things, right? I encourage all parents to ask about the day's highlights of their children. I encourage you to find times where you can have conversations. I had 3 kids. My oldest from my twins was 7 years. And so when the twins were born, we were already in sports and driving and chauffeuring and doing. And so that didn't change because as the twins got older, they got into sports and all I did was drive and chauffeur and change and drop off. And so we had our conversations in the car, asked about their day in the car. We talked about what was for dinner, what the rest of the evening was going to look at. We had lots and lots of car conversations because we spent so much time in the car. So you guys can have those highlights of the day, wherever there's a good time. Sometimes it's good to have that wind down. Maybe you talk to them while you're giving them a bath if they're little. How was your day at school? Maybe it's something you guys talk about over dinner. Just time when you have some time where you can really focus on them. Have shared family experiences. So I know some people, it's October, people are taking their kids to all kinds of pumpkin festivals. So last weekend we had the Hartsburg Pumpkin Festival. People are going to Lloyd's in Ashland or Fishers and Jeff City, or I can't think, Shy Rocks, that's another one. But, doing things together as a family and having those experiences that you guys can talk about. Discuss other people's points of view. So, when people disagree, saying it's okay to disagree, but we still have to be respectful and to that person and talking about maybe what that looks like. Discussing accepting things that can't be changed, right? So an example of that was we talked about the soccer game and it got rained out. We can't change that it rained, right? And so we have to accept that the soccer game is now going to be canceled because lightning came and it's unsafe and we can't play. So teaching them, them crying and throwing a tantrum isn't going to change. It's still going to be lightning outside and we're still not going to be able to do that. So discussing with them that some things are things we just have to accept and we can't change it. And parents, we want to encourage involvement in meaningful activities. So finding activities where they can thrive, but also have, they can find some self-worth in it. Draw a lot of times with the littles, it's drawing a picture for grandma or grandpa. It's drawing a picture for maybe a neighbor. They really love to draw, but they're, going to give it away as a thoughtful act of kindness. So that might be one of the things you can do. You can encourage your child to slow down and take in the world. So maybe you guys take some walks. During the pandemic, people started riding bikes again. I think there was like a shortage on bicycles, right? People were at parks and nature and doing and spending time with each other because there was nothing else to do. So people had to learn to slow down. I remember Strawberry Hills here had a shortage on vegetables and plants because people started planting gardens because they were home and stuck with nothing to do. So they started finding things to do that were outdoors. So you went and bought your plants and then you planted them outdoors as a family. So they were really taking the time to slow down and do because the world stopped, right? You didn't get a lot of choices. Now, yes, there were people who still worked through the entire pandemic. I'm one of them. Mental health did not slow down, but we were able to kind of pause and take a break and start to value things a little more. All right, our fourth building block, that's developing some coping skills. So what are coping skills? So those are our problem solving events, having some positive self-talk, talking about unhelpful thoughts, being able to relax mentally and physically, and asking for help and support. I think that last one's really even hard for us as parents, let alone teaching those skills. So problem solving, this is huge with our littles. Littles have to learn how to do things for themselves. They have to learn how to figure out when something doesn't work or how something doesn't work. They need to problem solve. And if you solve everything for them, then they don't learn to try and they don't learn to fail and try again. So examples with our littles would be when they start to do puzzles and the puzzle piece looks like it should fit there, but they have it wrong. And so they have to learn how to turn it so it fits in. But if you just take it and turn it and put it in for them, they don't realize that. So you may say, oh, I think it might fit. Why don't you try turning it? Oh, does it go up? Maybe it moves down to the side. Like you're giving them suggestions, but they're doing the work. Positive self-talk. So we're making sure kids are saying positive things about themselves, that they are making sure to fill their own cup. You're helping to fill their cup, but we want to hear them talk positive about themselves. Talking back to unhelpful thoughts. So if your child just says, like the example of the playground, nobody likes me, everybody hates me, that's why no one will play with me. Well, that's not really helpful, right? So talking back would be helping them to understand that people do like you. You can make friends. This is how we'll do it. So let's not say everyone hates us. Let's figure out how we're able to make friends because maybe they just don't know us. So you're really helping them to talk through that. Making sure we're taking the time to relax mentally and physically. I don't think sometimes we think about that with our little kids, but littles need rest. And sometimes we pull them into our very busy lives. And I'll give you an example of that. I met with a mom who told me her kid tantrum, 10 to 12 times a day, and she was exhausted. She was exhausted mentally and physically, but she couldn't keep things up. And so when we went through and looked at her routine and what her day looked like, so we could try to figure out when her child was tantruming, because she said it's all day. We got to figure out why, what's going on. So they were a family of 5. So they got up in the mornings and they were a traditional family with a mom and a dad. And so dad had to get up in the mornings and he went off to work. He really wasn't part of the routine. So mom got the kids up. She had kids that had to be at middle school by, I think it's 7:20 in the morning or 7:25. And then she had kids that were at elementary school. And so everybody got up at 6:30 in the morning to get dressed and get their day going, to be out of the house by 7:10, I believe it was. And so even the baby was up this early and going through the motions, and then they got in the car and she would drop the olders off, and then they kind of stayed out just a little bit. And then she would go and drop the elementary kids off. And then, they were already out. So mom would run some errands, maybe get groceries, go to the bank, whatever needed to be done because they were already out. And then she'd try to hustle home to get the baby laid down or to eat lunch and then lay the baby down. But the baby couldn't sleep or nap as long as they wanted to because they had to get up and be ready to pick the kids up by 3:20 or 2:35. I can't remember, I'm sorry. But they had to pick up the middle school kids, then pick up the other kids, and then get home and get dinner and homework and everything going. And so, she would say the child would just have horrible evenings, tantrum at the grocery store. She could really not get anything done. And so when we went through the schedule, well, this kiddo needed a snack. This kiddo needed a longer nap. They've been up since 6:30. And so when talking to mom about that, she realized, oh my goodness, I'm setting myself and my child up for failure. Kids do need that 10:30 to 12:30 nap and then get up and eat lunch. And sometimes they go back down 1 to 3. This kid wasn't getting enough sleep in the day. And so the tantrums were because they were hungry and they were tired. And so when she was able to figure out a better schedule and make sure her kid was getting adequate rest, the tantrums just next to stopped. And so sometimes it's just looking over our schedule and seeing, are we allowing ourselves to mentally and physically relax? And that's what that child was needing. And when we gave that child that, the tantrum stopped. But had she not reached out to me and gotten support, I'm not sure she would have realized that. So most definitely ask for help and support. All right, helping problem solving. So making sure we're setting a good example for our kids, playing games that promote thinking. So I spy with our little kids, I spy something red. We're talking about learning colors. And so what do you see in the room that's red? Let's find when we go out walking or we go to the grocery store. I love to put kids in the cart and then tell them, find something that's pink and tell me when you see something pink. I pick really hard things in the cart with grocery stores, so they have to focus. So colors like pink and yellow and purple, because they got to look for a while. Prompt your child again to work at that problem solving. When they can't figure something out, what do you think we need to do? What do you think will help? Do you think if you did this, it would work? So maybe like they've tried, so you're kind of giving them an answer and they're like, I do. Well, why do you think it'll work? And they can tell you. And then congratulate your child when they solve a problem on their own. Really, again, give them that praise. You work so hard. I'm so proud of you. And then involve your child in problem solving, right? Even the littles, if we talk about cleaning up, what's the family rule about cleaning up and how can you help? And so teaching the littles that when they take something out, it goes back in, having a toy box, sometimes saying you can only pull out one tote or bin at a time so that it doesn't get the living room overwhelmed with toys. And then you as mom is overwhelmed picking them up, or dad is overwhelmed picking them up, and nobody else is helping. But if you put the rule in that you can only get out one thing at a time, if your child ends up having a tantrum and not able to pick anything up, you're only picking up one tote versus a whole room. So think about that problem solving as a family. All right, so problem solving steps. So we look at what's the problem. We try to come up with multiple solutions, and then we evaluate those options. We decide on the best solution, we put the plan into action, and then we review how it worked and we revise the plan. So that's kind of what it looks like when you come to me. We'll define the problem. We'll talk about possible solutions that may work for your family. And I say with your family, because when you come to me, I'm not prescriptive on you, right? I ask what's going to work best for your family. And then we base solutions on your family and the things that your families do. And then we evaluate those options. You go back and try them. You come back to me and you tell me what worked well and what didn't work well. And then we decide on a solution, right? We put you back in, you try again, you put that plan into action, and then we review how it works and we revise it as it's necessary. That's part of problem solving. All right, building that positive self-talk, asking your child to evaluate their own achievements. What's that look like in our littles? We talk about, what things they've done for the week. We talk about the pictures they've drawn. A lot of times kids get some kind of chart, how's their day been, and we talk through that and helping them understand. Let's say they've had a bad day, or I like to say a not so good day. We talk about how could tomorrow be better? What kind of things can we do to get that happy face or that sticker for tomorrow? So we don't dwell on that they had a bad day, we really kind of talk about how can we make tomorrow better. Explain how thinking in different ways affects how you feel. So we talk about, when we're sad, we kind of feel like this, but we can get over feeling sad by, and maybe help them give you some suggestions. Prompt your child to think about what others might think or feel. And that's really important in our that preschool age. So starting to think about others or that 3 to 5 age. How do we make others feel when we hurt them or we're not nice to them? How do we make people feel when we are nice to them and we're helpful to them? So really helping that 3 to 5 year old, and older, of course, think about that, but really starting at 3 to really help them to understand how others might think or feel based on their answers. Point out helpful and unhelpful thinking. Again, that's just when we say people don't like us or we're negative talk, that we try to spin that around for them. And then model using positive self-talk to cope with stress. All right, helping kids relax. So, if you never sit still and you never sit down and you never take time to relax, your kids see that. So making sure you're finding time for yourself and that you can manage your stress so that you can show a good example of that. Helping children find ways to relax that work for them. And so some of those relaxing strategies might be taking slow, deep breaths, being able to relax their muscles, listening to and relaxing to calming music. You may have a calm down space, so that means you're not in trouble, but maybe you just need to calm yourself and regulate yourself and take a few moments. But letting kids know it's okay to step away and take a moment to calm yourself. And sometimes we do that with our littles. We may say, hey, we're going to do a time in, you're out of control and you're hurting your friends. So you're going to come sit next to me for a minute. And then you can go back in, right? We're just getting them to calm their body and then putting them right back in. All right, looking for support. So again, everyone needs to talk, and reaching out for support is quite normal, despite what other people might make you think. And talk about how you get support from others. So I talk a lot, like people used to parent as a village, right? There was grandparents involved. Everyone knew everyone in the neighborhoods. People disciplined as a village. So if someone heard someone else's child being disrespectful, you would call them out and say, hey, we don't talk to adults like that, or we don't talk to people like that. But that has kind of phased away. People want to display themselves on Facebook or Instagram or some form of social media as the perfect parent, which often makes other people think that how could I be falling apart? I'm losing my stuff over here, and this person is always happy and everything's great. I encourage you not to fall into that trap, right? There's no perfect parent with a perfect life, right? They're just perfectly displaying it instead. So everybody needs support. And how can you get it? Reach out for resources and use them in your community. Helping kids to also know that they can talk to family, a close family member, a trusted friend, a school teacher, or a counselor. All right, dealing with those negative feelings. All children have negative emotions. Parents cannot completely protect their children for those feelings. Many emotions pass quickly, so teaching our kids to not dwell on them, saying it's okay to feel sad or down or have those feelings, but you want to the next day to check in with your kid to make sure those negative emotions have passed quickly. Parents can calmly assist in problem solving, and we've talked a lot about that problem solving. And then you can help your child learn to resolve negative feelings on their own. So maybe talking about, well, what kind of things can you do so that you're not sad anymore? Or asking what makes you sad so that you can help them understand, and then talk about what makes them happy. And then you can kind of talk about, well, what kind of things can we do to move you from sad to happy? Managing emotions. So notice when your child's upset. Ask what's wrong and listen to them. Again, giving that eye contact, really focusing on them. Summarize what you heard. Acknowledge your feelings, right? We all have feelings and we all want to be heard and understood. And then ask what they want to do. So we're trying to figure out, do they want help? Do they want to do it themselves? Maybe ask how you can help versus inserting yourself into it. Again, prompt them with that problem solving. And then if they're upset, continue to suggest some time to cool off and think about it, making sure you're staying calm yourself and make a time to talk later, right? So maybe sometimes we have to say to our kiddos, hey, it looks like you're really upset. We're going to take some time to cool off, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Help your child how to learn to cope on their own. For example, with anxiety, you could set a good example. You can talk about those anxious feelings. You can teach your child some coping strategies, and I'd be happy to work with you on that if that's not something you know, or we can check out some books in our library as well as coping with strategies and feelings. Encourage facing fears gradually, making sure you're staying calm, and then prompt those coping strategies, praise your child's efforts, and talk about dangerous situations. All right. Our last our last building block, dealing with stressful life events. And then making sure we talk about change, problems with peers. I'm going to go through these kind of quickly and then I'll go back. Disappointment, unpleasant experience, a loss, parent separation or divorce, joining a new family, trauma or serious illness, natural disaster, terrifying experiences. So this just kind of gives you a rundown of some things that could be stressful to children and talking about them. Again, use your resources. You may be able to check about books, definitely about separation and divorce, joining a new family, trauma and illness. The libraries are great resources for talking about stressful life events, but then coping with them. So one of the biggest things I see with children is a loss of a grandparent or a pet. And so being able to talk through that, you two are upset and your child's upset. We can ask what happened in terms of what happened with the event, not the situation, because we don't want to say what happened to the dog unless the dog has passed and the kid's standing there and you want to understand. Making sure we talk about things that are positive. Reassure your child when appropriate. So sometimes kids get fear that they're going to die when a pet or a grandparent has died. So help them to understand that kind of cycle of death. Don't feel you have to solve the problem for your child. Some things we sit in and we work through. We may suggest something to cheer up your child. So if your child is, I'm really sad about your pet, an example is we can make a pet box where children put suggestions, positive memories about the pet in the box, and then they can pull those out and read those memories. Again, encouraging the use of those coping skills and then checking in later. And then seeking advice, or a referral if those kind of problems continue. And then, so they use an example of moving as one of those things, and I'll totally let, that's something we could discuss if you ever needed to, but, talking through that. Some things to consider: your child's development level, reassure where appropriate, encourage appropriate expressions of feelings, and then provide information if needed to your kids. Maintain routines as much as possible, and then arrange a child care if the loss affects you. So if you're unable to care for your kids or unable to be an effective parent at the time, is there someone else who can help you? It's okay to talk about feelings, coping, and memories. And then again, seek advice and support if you need it. So reaching out for, trauma and grief counseling or any of those types of things. All right, our take-home messages. The foundations for emotional resilience are laid in early childhood. So when we're teaching those social emotional skills in children early in life, it's much more helpful for them. Emotional skills are important for happiness, well-being, and success in life. And we're building that in these early years for kindergarten readiness. But our goal is to build emotionally strong, independent people who can go out and live a successful life. And then children learn a lot about managing their emotions from their parents. So how they see you handling situations, they often mimic that. So if you're a screamer and a yeller in situations, you'll see that your child does that as well. So how you show your child how to manage their emotions will be what they kind of display. Parents can help children learn how to recognize, understand, and accept their feelings, express them in appropriate ways, develop a positive outlook and coping skills, and then dealing with negative feelings and coping with stressful life events. Again, I'd be happy if you need any help to do a one-on-one with you to work through how you could do those types of things. All right, so we've come to the end. Are there any questions that you might have? I don't think, Amy, I don't think we put it, there was none that popped in the chat, right?
Correct. We don't have any in the chat at this time.
All right. Well, if you will post that post test in there, if you will do that.
I sure will. Let me get that up there for everybody.
And then again, my email's in the chat. If there's anything you want to discuss with me, just reach out and I will email you back. And I'm happy to share any resources or answer any questions that you guys might have.
Oh, we have a question that just popped up.
How can I know if I'm focusing too much on my child's emotions? It's a good question. You know, how might you be able to regulate that? So if you're checking in on your child every day, we talked about, you know, asking how their day was. That's a good way to check in on how they're feeling and how they're doing. And, you know, it's okay to ask if we notice their facial expressions are sad or upset, or, you know, they're in discontent, but we don't want to overly ask what's going on. Why do you look sad? Why do you look happy? Why do you look this way? Because then kids start to think, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to look or how I'm supposed to, you know, convey myself because I'm always being questioned. So I would really suggest that you ask yourself every day, have I checked in on my child? Meaning, how was your day? What kind of things went on in your day? Really focusing on just asking them so that they're able to tell you their emotions and feelings and give you kind of an outlook of what happened for them for the day. If they're home with you all day, that might be an issue, right? If they didn't do anything, you already know. So just kind of then talking to them while you're doing things today. So example is if you go on a walk, you know, talking to them, what kind of things they see on the walk, you know, animals, leaves, anything like that, giving them space and time to be able to talk to you about how they're feeling. Is that helpful? Okay, good. And if there's any other questions, feel free again, reach out and I'll be happy to answer them for you.
All right, let me try to get back to gallery view. I'm not sure if anyone's able to see me at this point, but
We
just
can see you on the right, like me, like the
oh,
tiny.
wonderful. That's great. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. We really appreciate Catherine Miller being with us tonight, and we hope that you will plug into some library resources. We have lots of resources here at the library to support you as a parent and a caregiver. That's what we specialize in, and that's what we love to do. So yes, all right, everyone have a great evening. Take good care.
Bye guys.
Bye.